A third of you will not pass this course. My colleague, who usually teaches thermodynamics, was on leave for the semester, and I was assigned to take his place. I knew it would not be easy to teach this course. It has a reputation for being really hard, and engineering students only take it because it is required for the major. On top of that, my colleague had warned me that many students stop coming to lectures early on in the semester, and those who come to class often do not come prepared. It seemed clear that I needed a way to motivate students to work hard and keep up with the material. I recalled that when I was a student, any suggestion by the professor that I might not be up to the challenge really got me fired up and eager to prove him wrong. So I told my students on the first day of class, "This is a very difficult course. You will need to work harder than you have ever worked in a course, and still, a third of you will not pass." I expected that if my students heard that, they would dig in and work harder to measure up. But to my surprise, they slacked off even more than in previous semesters. They often did not come to class, they made lackluster efforts at the homework, and their test performance was the worst it had been for many semesters. And this was after I gave them fair warning. This class had the worst attitude I have ever seen, and the students seemed to be consumed by an overall sense of lethargy and apathy. I am beginning to think that today's students are just plain lazy. Professor Valencia Robles. What is going on in these stories? In both of these stories, students fail to acquire and demonstrate the level of understanding the professors desire. In both cases, a lack of engagement with the material seems to be at the root of the problem. To their credit, Professor Hill and Professor Robles both think hard about how to motivate their students, yet they make the common and often flawed assumption that their students would be motivated in much the same ways that they themselves were as students. When their students are not similarly motivated, the instructors conclude that they are apathetic or lazy. However, a closer examination of these instructors' approaches and their unintended consequences reveals other likely explanations for student disengagement. Because Professor Hill is so passionate about the course content and finds it so inherently interesting, it does not occur to him that the features of the course that excite him most, the seminal readings and working with primary sources, do not hold the same value for his students. As a consequence, they approach the work half-heartedly and never successfully master the material. Professor Robles, for her part, hopes to recreate the highly competitive classroom environment that had motivated her as a student. However, her warnings about the difficulty of the material and the students' limited chances of passing may fuel pre-existing negative perceptions about the course, compromise her students' expectations for success, and undermine their motivation to do the work necessary to succeed. Although these two stories deal with slightly different issues, the concept of motivation lies at the core of each. What principle of learning is at work here? Motivation refers to the personal investment that an individual has in reaching a desired state or outcome. In the context of learning, motivation influences the direction, intensity, persistence, and quality of the learning behaviors in which students engage. Principle: students' motivation generates, directs, and sustains what they do to learn. The importance of motivation in the context of learning cannot be overstated. As students enter college and gain greater autonomy over what, when, and how they study and learn, motivation plays a critical role in guiding their behaviors. In addition, because there are many competing goals that vie for their attention, time, and energy, it is crucial to understand what may increase or decrease students' motivations to pursue specific goals related to learning. As we can see in the first story, if students do not find the content of the course interesting or relevant, they may see little or no value in mastering it and may fail to engage in the behaviors required for deep learning. Similarly, in the second story, if students do not expect to be successful in a course, they may disengage from the behaviors necessary for learning. Imagine how differently these two stories might have been if the students in Professor Hill's class saw value in learning to use primary sources, and the students in Professor Rowell's class expected their hard work to result in strong performance and good grades.